Good morning. My name is Peter Davis, and I serve on the Stewardship Committee with Lee Alexander and Bob Janata. For those of you that don't know me, my wife Caroline and son William started attending St. Francis about a year and a half ago, shortly after we moved to Potomac and the birth of our son William, who coincidentally is a year and a half old. I'm supposed to talk about the stewardship campaign, but first I'd like to tell you about how big of a sports fan I am. Almost every sport out there, but mainly soccer, baseball, and hockey fill most of my viewing schedule. I grew up playing pretty much any sport that had a ball, and probably like every kid, I idolized my favorite athletes. Brett Favre, Ken Griffey Jr., Kobe Jones, to name a few. Sorry, Father Jonathan, Scottie Pippen was not on that list. But what I didn't understand at the time was the economics behind sports, the money behind the games that I loved. This was a time before billion-dollar cable network deals, and athlete salaries reflected this, much less inflated than modern times. Nowadays, it's fairly common to see players signing for tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. And when your favorite athletes sign these contracts, it's often with other teams outside of your city. In this case, once loyal fans like myself instantly dislike these players. One day you love them and the next day you despise them. That's because fans demand loyalty. It even goes as far when these players come back to the city, we hiss and boo, thinking, how could they leave us, especially just for money? Well, there are countless verses in the Bible about money. Well, not countless, just over 2,300 verses, depending on the website that you reference. Roughly 15% of Jesus' preaching was about money, and 16 of 39 parables about money and possessions. So why is that? I believe that this is because Jesus recognized that money and greed were an immense threat to people following him. Matthew 6:19 says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be." I laugh when I think about these superstar athletes as disciples of the city that they play in or their fan base, but that's how fans think of these people. We love the respectful, grateful stars that show loyalty and humility. In this analogy, I suppose that all of us are the superstar athletes. We are the disciples, not of the city or the fans, obviously, but of God. Probably a more traditional definition of the word, actually, disciple. Regardless of how much money we make or the possessions that we have, it is discipleship and stewardship that God values. The loyalty of his followers and the willingness for them to give all of what they have and who they are to him. When my family and I started attending St. Francis, we met a lot of great people. Everyone we met was friendly and welcoming. Before we left church that first Sunday, we knew that we were going to come back. People are the ones who lead in the church. People are also the ones who run the programs and the functions in the church. And it's because of the people that my family and I give to St. Francis. If you do not give regularly to St. Francis, consider pledging this coming year. While everyone should evaluate their own level of giving, I encourage you to get to a biblical tithe of 10% of your annual income. If you currently pledge, how about increasing that level of giving? Consider the satisfaction of giving might actually bring you more joy than how you would otherwise spend that money. Why not give for a world where Jesus Christ gave his life? Remember the last sentence of Matthew 6:19, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be." Thanks.